Hello, welcome back to my channel. I am Monae and you are watching Life as Monae. This video is supposed to be kind of like a fun idea, but I don't really know how fun it's going to be because I'm going to be reading 1-star reviews of my favorite books. Two of my favorite books are The Starlet C and Strange the Dreamer, and I know that those books are not everybody's cup of tea. So I was like, why not read the 1-star reviews and see what they hated about those books, because I absolutely love them. If you look closely at the channel art in my intro, you will see a lot of key elements from both Strange the Dreamer and The Starlet C. That is how much I absolutely love them. They're my babies. So yeah, I'm just gonna hop on my tablet and go to Goodreads and just, we're gonna get started. Hopefully they didn't drag my book too bad because I wouldn't be able to take it. The first book we're going to be looking at is Strange the Dreamer, and we're going to start off with the 1-star reviews. The first review says that it just wasn't my cup of tea. I totally understand that. It is not for everybody. It's very whimsical and lyrical with the writing, and I can just totally see how it's not someone's cup of tea. So the next review we have is from Obsidian. Please note that I DNF'd this book at 5%. Sorry, not sorry. You didn't even give the book a chance. How are you going to rate a book that you only read 5% of? What is 5%? Of Strange the Dreamer is like 530 pages. You read not even 50 pages of a 500-page book, and you had the audacity to rate it a 1-star. The nerve. Sorry, not sorry. I just am not going to force myself to read something I am not enjoying. The purple prose and info dump that I tried to wade through turned me completely off. I can't say much more than that since I didn't waste my time trying to struggle through this read. I would also say that the flow was just a slog. I did try to skim a couple of chapters and just gave up. So that's not a valid opinion. You have absolutely no rights because you read 5% of the book. And can you even have an opinion at 5%? Like, it's okay to definitely say that you DNF a book, but I don't think that it's fair to rate a book that you only read 5% of. Okay, so the next 1-star review we have is from Frankie. Is this a poorly written book? No, of course not. So why didn't I like it? I had to sit with my thoughts for a bit to determine the final answer. It's simple. This book is boring. How could it be boring? What is boring about it? You start off in this almost magical place itself with an orphan with no name who's a cast aside in his society, and no one ever pays attention to him. They all look at Laszlo like he just doesn't spend his time on Earth. Everybody knows that he's a dreamer and they just don't take him seriously. So you start off with this perspective of a guy who nobody in his life pays attention to him. And those that do know him kind of think he's off his rockers because he's fascinated with the impossible. The book starts off promising with a likable main character meeting the ever-lovable downtrodden orphan trope. He works in a library and his love of stories is infectious. It totally is. When you read this book, you want to dream like Laszlo Strange because his ability to dream is just absolutely amazing. Not me taking their 1-star review and telling you all the good things about it. Perspective. The idea of a lost city where he can go find himself and break free of his bonds is exciting. I'm not understanding where this 1-star is coming from because the beginning of this review just sounds really good. It's all the things I love about the book. However, nothing of consequence ever really happens in this story. There's a strange mixing of POVs where sometimes characters are individualized and other times they're shared. There's a rivalry that never really comes to a head, and the romantic angle was a dud. I would not say that Laszlo and Theon Nero are rivals. They do have a very complicated relationship, and there is a lot of character development and jealousy around Theon's character, but I don't think that they're rivals. I think that a lot of the great assets to Laszlo Strange it's later explained in the book. Thyone Nero is supposed to be this person of great stature in the book, and Laszlo just knows that he's at the bottom of the totem pole, so he just doesn't try. He genuinely cares about Thyone, and he just naturally has this thing about Laszlo that Thyone can't really put his finger on, and he can't really explain, and it makes him uncomfortable, and it makes him kind of unsure of himself, because with everybody looking up to Thyone Nero, he just doesn't have that spark or like thing about him. He just doesn't have that spark about him that Laszlo does, and it kind of eats at him. He kind of gets upset about it, but it's explained in the book as to why Laszlo is the way he is, and how the ability to dream can be a talent and it can set you apart from everybody else. But I really don't think that that was a rivalry. I think that it was a jealousy on Thyone's part that he will learn to get over. Okay, because Laszlo is not competing with anybody, because Laszlo is Laszlo, period. There were other characters who had some interesting things going on, but we never heard their stories. I will say that Ruby, Pharaoh, Sparrow, I really wanted a lot more of their perspective, but I do understand that the book is about Laszlo Strange and his love with Sarai, and him finding out the history that he didn't know he had because he is an orphan. But the background characters in this book, they all have really exceptional stories, and that just means that she could do so much more with this world, but it's still a 5 out of 5. The book ended abruptly. Obviously, there would be future books, but it was poorly executed. I'm not going to ruin the ending, and I'm not going to say how it ends, but it does not end abruptly, okay? It ends in tragedy, and tragedy is abrupt. 1 minute, everything is fine, and then the next minute, everything went to hell, and that is why book 2 is called Muse of Nightmares. At the end of Strange the Dreamer, she sets up the premise for Muse of Nightmares, so the book kind of ends in a nightmarish way. But I mean, there's a sequel, it's already out, and I don't understand the beef, sis. Another person saying they DNF'd at 5%. Another person saying that they DNF'd at 20%. I'm not reading those because you can't have a valid opinion to rate something 1 star if you only read 12% of it. I wouldn't even do that. The YA fantasy of Strange the Dreamer is one of the most morally repugnant books I've ever read. That's aggressive. This novel relies on racism, classism, and ableism as central features of the plot. Okay. And these mindsets are held on by so-called heroes. The story is traditional white savior tale in which the white master race slave-owning colonists are recast as blue-skinned demigods with magical powers. I feel like that's a reach. I feel like you should have stretched before that. I feel like you pulled a muscle. I see where you were going, but it just sounds a little extreme. Everybody in the book is white, so I'm not understanding. It's not like Korko and his fellow friend gods are white, and then Laszlo and Thyone and everybody else is a person of color. Everybody in the book is white. Laszlo's white. So I'm not understanding the racist part. The classism, I suppose I could get, because their gods treat regular humans like crap, and then also in the world of the regular humans, they treat orphans like crap because Laszlo gets tossed around. So I definitely understand the classism. And I can see how you might feel like the book is ableist. I'm not trying to take away from that. I'm a little lost on the racism part. Yeah. I'm looking at the comments for this, and I've seen several people ask, why does she think the blue-skinned gods are colonists? That's very interesting. They do make colonist decisions, I guess. I mean, they do take over one city, but they only take over that one city. It's not like they travel through this entire world, taking over one town after another. They take over one city, which is the city of Weep. But yeah, I'm a little lost on that aspect, so I would love to get a follow-up. No one in this book is having a good time, least of all the reader. I had a phenomenal time. Exceptional time. Can't relate. This was easily one of the most boring books I've read this year. I don't understand this boring adjective. Like, you guys are just throwing this word around aggressively. I was trying to decide whether I should give this 1 or 2 stars, but no, it's a 1 for me. Sorry, I tried though. I had so many issues with this novel, and next to these, I cannot name a single thing that I would have liked. I didn't like any of the characters either. My biggest problem though is that I could probably summarize the whole book in like 2 sentences. I would like to see you try. I would like to see anybody watching this video who has read Strange the Dreamer to summarize it in 2 sentences. I would love to see it. It'd be 2 run-on sentences for sure, but I'd love to see that attempt because the book is a lot more complex than just 2 sentences. I can't believe an editor would read this and approve 10 pages of kissing. That's kind of funny. I think 10 pages is dramatic, but I also was really excited about the kiss. It's one of my favorite book kisses, so perhaps it's a dream, so it's supposed to be exaggerated. If it's not exaggerated, is it a dream? And not only that nothing actually happened, but the characters were also boring as hell. Sarai, so pure, so innocent, she literally tormented hundreds of people almost all her life. Why? There was no reason. Did you read the book? Because there was definitely a reason why the Muse of Nightmares was in your dreams giving you nightmares. Definitely. She didn't just torment these poor people for no reason. Now, she was a little brainwashed and warped by one of the villains in the book. So I don't see how you could say that that happened for no reason, because they literally tell you over and over, like, part of her tormenting these people in their dreams is a huge premise to the story, and it sets up the entire second book. Unfounded. That is unfounded. She pulled a quote from the book that says, "The people of Weep were innocent, most of them, and she did torment them. But what choice did she have? She did have a choice." Would you face Minya and her army of the dead? Please, you don't want to fight Minya and her ghosts. And Laszlo, he was nothing more than an outsider, and yet he dared judging Aerofane's decisions. He did not judge Aerofane. That's a high accusation. That's high crime. Okay? He analyzed them. I don't know if he judged them. And wow. So if Aerofane massacred only adults, then he's a hero. But if he killed babies, then he's the villain. Aerofane is not the villain of this book, and nobody makes him out to be except for the Godspawn. The Godspawn hate him, but even Sarai understands why Aerofane killed the babies in the book. She even has sympathy for him. She still gives him nightmares every now and again, but she understands why he did what he did. Nobody made Aerofane a villain. Like, that's the choice to acclaim that. You know what? I can't take any more Strange to Dream slander. We're going to the Starlet C. I assume that the reviews of the Starlet C is going to be much worse than Strange the Dreamer, but we'll see. Yeah, even the Goodreads average rating for the Starlet C is lower than Strange the Dreamer, so I just know that they're about to drag this book. A lot more 5-star reviews, but there are some 1-star reviews. And nobody in this is saying that they DNF'd this thing. I see one person saying they DNF'd at 48%. So, and I see full paragraphs. So I feel like this is going to be a lot more founded for the Starlet C. The first one we have says, "I did not enjoy this at all. Pretentious, confusing, and jumping through time to make no sense whatsoever. I feel like I wasted a week of reading. All of my anticipated releases have been flops this year." Okay, that sounds personal. Don't take that out on Aaron. Aaron didn't have nothing to do with them other books. Now, what is this book about? Honestly, your guess is as good as mine. That's high-key true. That's high-key true. I feel like if you don't understand the premise of the world for Strange the Dreamer, you definitely won't understand the Starlet C, because it's a story within a story within a story, and it's being told in a book of stories at different times. Like, the Starlet C doesn't adhere to the normal time that we do in our world. So I could admit that the plot is pretty hectic. It definitely does jump around a bit, but I guess that I just really love those aspects because I loved it. I love jumping through these different time portals and different stories, and it was just so amazing. But I could see that. I understand that. There was a hint of some love stories, but they were so muddled into everything else that was pointless and made no sense, so who knows. Okay, there are a lot of stories, but they do tie in the end. Did you read the end, sis? Because they came together like a masterpiece. Our main characters had potential, but soon faded with the character arcs they were given. What character? Which ones? I have to know which character she's talking about before I say yay or nay to that. There are LGBT characters, but even that can't convince me to like this book. And that ending, that is some open-ended bullshit for a pointless sequel if this one sells well. And you can't convince me otherwise. It was so unnecessary. But is there gonna be a book 2? Because I didn't get that memo, but I'm here for it. I would definitely be buying the second book of the Starlet C if it comes out. Okay, I am so disappointed. B, sword, story, door, doorknob. Someone doing something somewhere, but loses someone. Owls, honey, C, bee, swords, cat, stories, fragments. Smart literary references, haha. B, source, the moon. Clueless, boring gay character gets lost, does nothing, stumbles, regrets everything, has no spine. Insta love, why? He took my hand, then lost it. C, trinkets, books, ribbons, lost one name. Someone randomly, hate for no reason. Kitchen, that kitchen was a little confusing. I'm gonna admit that. I was like, where does the kitchen come from? What? Swords, the fortune teller's son, the fortune teller's son, the fortune teller's son. People being way too tweet talking about recursive storytelling in live literature versus video games. Such self-consciousness. Doors again. Who? Cats wear meaningless, pretty, endless, meandering sentences. Stags, moons, books. Lost again. They do get lost sometimes. This has to be my favorite review ever. Like, this review isn't going to make any sense unless you read it, but I swear to God, the book does. If you want to summarize how the book hops around, it literally does hop around like that. Keys, doorknob, also mutilations, getting lost, snow, confusion, stories, lost, what? Olden time, references, book stars, flashback, flash forwards, fragments, and a cursed love. I got to 85% before giving up. It made me want to peel the skin off my face. That was a book drag if I've ever read one. This could have been a literary genius of a book. Seriously, I wrote that in all caps because I'm literally screaming it. The writing was gorgeous. Of course it was. The prose was, and we love to see it. This book was stories within stories. It is a portal fantasy where there is another world filled with books. I've seen a lot of reviews mention that if you are a true book lover, then you'll love this book as it pays homage to storytelling. I completely agree. When you think of true storytelling, like true fantasy stories, true happy, whimsical storytelling, like this, it's true folklore. It doesn't get any better than that. I completely disagree. Of course you do. I am a huge book lover and I couldn't finish this one. There was no plot. There was a plot, but it did hop around and there were a lot of disconnections and misconnections, miscommunications in the book. So I could see how you may feel like there's no plot because it takes a while to get to the plot. I've never met such a passive hero. While I liked him, he didn't ask any questions. Come on, Zachary Ezra Rollins. So in the book, whenever Erin writes Zachary's name, she writes out his entire name. Every time you see Zachary is followed up with Ezra Rollins. She writes first, middle, and last name for him. If you're in another world, why wouldn't you ask questions? Well, he didn't. He was just going with the flow. I mean, it had that Alice in Wonderland kind of aspect, and she also just kind of went with the flow. And the more questions that Alice in Wonderland asked, the more lost she actually got. I feel like he knew that he wasn't going to get answers to his questions because he did ask Fate a lot of questions, but Fate never answered him. As I kept reading, I kept wondering what is going on. Yeah, I will say that for Strange the Dreamer and the Starlet C, they are very just folklore storytelling books. So you asking what's going on is just not going to end well for you, because I don't think you're supposed to know where the story is going. I think you're supposed to just be enjoying the story in the moment. So if you're a person that likes to rush to the plot, or you get annoyed when you don't see a plot at a certain point in the book, then you are not going to like these books. But I just enjoyed being in the world and getting to know the characters. These are some of the most beautiful characters I've ever read about. When I would feel like I have the hang of it, the story would change. It did do that. It totally did do that. Something would pop up and I'd feel like an idiot again. I'm loving this right now. I'm very smart. Actually, there were times when I would consider myself to be genius level smart, but this book made me feel like a dummy. I tried to trudge through it. But imagine you're wearing a backpack with 20 10-pound weights in that backpack. That's what it feels like reading this book. Dramatic. I woke up feeling heavy and weighted, and that's when I knew it was time to DNF. I'm not mad at this person. That's how I felt when I was reading the rest of the 5th season, like trilogy, the Broken Earth trilogy, because I consider myself a very smart person, but that book, it was a no. Do I recommend this? All capital. No, for the love of all that's holy and good. Do not waste your time. Okay. So I've built up my confidence, and I think I'm going to read 1-star reviews for Legacy of Ash, and we're going to see how it goes. Okay, there is really not a lot of 1-star reviews for Legacy of Ash, and that's good, because my heart can't take it. Okay, there are 5 1-star reviews, but no one actually wrote a review, and that's questionable. So we're going to move to 2-star reviews and see who gave it 2 stars, which doesn't hurt as bad as a 1-star, so I'm totally fine with that. Okay, the actual rating, they said, is a 2.25. As I say in most of my reviews, I don't know where to start with this one. I wish I had a better way to start with this one, but I don't. This book had so much potential, and I feel like it was wasted. I really had no opinions going into this book, so no expectations, but somehow it still disappointed me. My main problem with this book is that it's a watered down 4-book series stuffed into 700 pages. What does that mean? I didn't care about the characters because none of the relationship between the reader and the character was cultivated. Oh, okay. Also, there wasn't enough world building. I shouldn't come out of a 700-page book with questions about the lore, the religion, or the magic system. Why not? Why not? Who says you still can't have questions after reading a 700-page book in a trilogy? It's a trilogy. Why would he answer all your questions in the first book? And yet I did. It also means that there are multiple times when I was reading where I thought the book should have ended. Okay, there are at least 2 solid climax moments in the storytelling, and then we'd have a short moment to go over what just happened, followed by rising action again. If the author had taken time to world build, give the action room to breathe, and cultivate the reader's relationship with the characters, this book would have easily been 1,500 to 2,000 pages. When I say this was a watered down series packed into 700 pages, I mean it. Okay, so it seems like they're upset that it was 700 pages and not 1,500 pages. But I would read a 1,500 page book of Legacy of Ash, so I'm not mad at that. Also, I guess it was too action-packed for this person, which I loved because I read Priory and I liked it, but it did have quite a few slow moments. So going from Priory, which is 750 pages, into another 750 page book, but this one's a lot more fast-paced, I have no complaints. But I guess if you're someone who doesn't like it to be very action-packed, maybe it's not for you. I agree with reviewers who say that this book isn't meant for people who are new to the fantasy genre. Definitely not. It is not your intro to adult fantasy. Don't pick it up. Don't think it. Don't think it. I shouldn't feel like I'm slogging through a book that doesn't give me enough of a reward for my effort. See, now I'm confused because you either want it to be 1,200 pages or you want it to be 700 pages. Because if you were slogging through 700 pages of an action-packed book, then how are you going to slog through 1,200 or 1,500? I don't know. Something's not adding up here. I slogged through a Game of Thrones with a decent return of my time. I slogged through Nevernight with a great return on my investment. I slogged through this book and got way less than what I put in, which sucks because this could have been the next Game of Thrones. This person also gave it 2 stars, so I mean, I guess this review is kind of confusing, but to each their own. Hear me out before you ignore what I have to say. I've already ignored you. I'm already not listening. I'm just recording, so I'm going to keep reading. This book had so much potential. There are some major political machinations at work in this book that the author does a good job of keeping the reader just on the outside of. The political intrigue, spot on, I will agree. It is enough to intrigue, but not enough to confuse. Very true. The world isn't so vast that it's hard to wrap your mind around. But I thought this person just said that they had questions about the world. Make it make sense. But there's enough magic to make it all interesting. It wrecks me that this book could have been so much more. This book was so much more. And more than that. Disagree highly. Another 2-star rating says this felt like a second book in a series and not a starter. If you're not used to reading high, dense adult fantasy, I could totally see that. But for a beginner book and we just jump right into the world and we get to the action and I am still intrigued, you're giving me excitement, you're giving me adrenaline, and I'm still interested 700 pages later, I call that a win. I call that a masterpiece. I don't know what you call it in your home, but over here, it is excellent. Yeah, I think I'm done because I disagree. I disagree, change my mind. You can't. Don't even try. I hope you guys enjoyed this video of me reacting to people dragging some of my favorite books of the year. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.